Hello! It is I, Ramses the 800th, and today we're doing another manga roundup. And we're going to be covering 4 series and 5 chapters, because we're covering 2 chapters of Kagurabachi, we're covering Kaiju number 8, we're going to be covering Jujutsu Kaisen, and we're going to be covering the newest chapter of Chainsaw Man. I think in that order. Yeah, we're doing it in that order. But if you like what you see, like, comment, share, subscribe, generic YouTube stuff. But let's get into this. Let's get into Kagurabachi, obviously, first. So we're covering chapters 48 and 49. And these are kind of setting the bar chapters right now. We have the previous enchanted blade wielder on the train, and they're going, I guess, to a safe house, someplace safe. And we're getting more of Uruha. We're getting more of Uruha's like view on our main character, right? Sorry, my brain's like fried because this is like the good, like this is something that I feel like he needed, with someone basically going, "Oh no, yeah, you're definitely his kid. Like you're just like him," And that reassurance is kind of what he needs. Just like that, even though he says he doesn't really care, it's just that validation, like, okay, somebody who knew my dad like that, and I heard about him for a long time, like that reassurance is something that I think Chihiro really needs, especially from somebody who knew his dad like on this level, because they were obviously homies. But they basically go over the situation at hand and how they're basically up against people who have power equivalent to enchanted blades, right? But the problem is that they don't really have too much on their side. So in this chapter, we were explained that they have these devices that Sojo helped create, which basically grants people power equivalent to that of a enchanted blade, right? And that's a problem because, as we're seeing here, the only thing they have on that level are Enten and the Flame Bone. But like they say here, it's not infinite, but it's a lot, and that's they're up against something like that, and that's trouble. But they basically going into this is like we get technically a flashback to what happened to the enchanted blade swordsman's like friends while they were fighting off those guys, like the people that were trying to ambush him. And we get a cool little fight scene. We see what they are capable of, and we can see here that just because they have weapons on par with enchanted blades doesn't mean that they themselves are a problem. If we have just a halfway strong sorcerer like these guys, who are basically made to help protect Uruha, who are meant to protect Uruha, they can easily deal with these guys even if they have something like that. So it's this power is like an equalizer, but not really. Like you need to give it to somebody skilled enough to utilize it in order for them to be of use. It's weird to say it like that, but and they basically were like, let's go surprise him at his stop. And they did surprise him in one way, and we get a cut to these two. And obviously we can tell by this symbol that he's a part of the evil group. I can't pronounce it, so I'm not going to try. And he's basically like, we're going to kill him. We're going to kill Uraha because they had to bring around his friends who they killed, that's kind of like, it's funny because it's like, oh, we're going to go meet him. They technically did, but not alive. But, and more Kagurabachi side characters just being killed off. But, that's how the cookie crumbles. But this guy's anticipating that the Uraha is probably just going to charge right at him, right? But we get Chihiro just standing there like a boss and basically being like, I'll deal with you. Uraha has self-control and can control his feelings, and I'll basically deal with you myself, right? And then we have 49, which is a really cool fight, right? Basically the whole goal with these guys, they want to kill the previous contract holders in order to get access to the enchanted blades, pretty obvious story, pretty obvious thing, but Chihiro isn't going to let that. And they believe that Uraha without the enchanted blade isn't nearly strong enough, but he deals with them pretty quickly. And this guy, I don't know if they said his name, I can't remember, has like paper mache, he calls them blood crane, but like paper mache like weapons. Yeah, no, origami. He has like origami weapons. And we could tell that they're moving very fast and doing a lot of crazy stuff. And, Chihiro's killing people like normal. But this is pretty crazy. He just sent these through his companion, air quotes. He probably doesn't care about them like that. Sent them through his companions and just go straight for Chihiro. And obviously, a normal sword isn't enough to deal with Enta? Whatever. His enchanted blade. And he's getting hits on Chihiro. He's getting hit on Uraha. And Chihiro says centipede to Hikari, right? And he's mentioning like this kind of move where they kind of have to like pull back and like basically go low to the ground because we're gonna get a big sweep attack. And Chihiro pulls out Kuro again and basically deals with everybody else on the train and either knocks them out or just kills them. Good stuff. And Chihiro's like, I need to kill these guys, but I can't risk Uraha getting hurt. So he makes the executive decision with the approval of the sword of the enchanted sword wielder to just push him out of the train. He just like knocks him out and like basically gets him away because he is the biggest threat. The rest of them can handle the fodder. He can handle this guy. And they're making a good point. Chihiro's making a really great point that yes, they have these powers equal to a blade, but they're usually short-lived. They're not strong enough. And the point right here especially, and on both sides there are skilled fighters without enchanted blades. Our fighting power is split evenly. It's basically saying they have power equal to enchanted blade. They have a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of other people who have similar power but not nearly as strong and not nearly as long. Like they haven't had it for a long time. And you also just have naturally skilled people who don't use enchanted blades. So where they thought they were at a massive disadvantage, they're actually pretty evenly split. And if they can make a contract in order to recover the other blades, and if Hikari starts getting more control over his power, we get this beautiful detailed shot, right? These two enchanted blades will break the deadlock because they think they are evenly split, right? Right now they are technically like at a deadlock. They can hurt each other, but at the end of the day, it's not really going to do anything. It's going to be like playing chess. But if they can get two enchanted blades, which technically would be 3 powers equal to an enchanted blade, they will have the advantage, right? And that's very good. And they're just covering like, oh, they have powers like this, and they have a reanimation process for these guys. The power that they have can basically either bring them back to life or basically force them to stand up again. I don't really know, but that's like the vibe I'm getting. Where yes, they are dead, but the power basically keeps them moving. So it's unless the body or the power itself is destroyed, it's not really gonna go away. And Chihiro says this deadlock is about to break. He's gonna break this deadlock. As long as they can get him to safety and or get him his sword back, this deadlock is going to be, it's not going to be a problem anymore, and they'll be winning. So in the future, I don't know what we could do. So I think it's going to be a lot of trading off, right? Like a lot of people are going to die. Like a lot of the old sword wielders are probably going to die, like half of them at least. But I think we might get to a point where Chihiro uses all the blades and it can do like something crazy, because we saw him use Cloud Gouger and literally told it to lock in, and it did, and he used it to its end. So either he's going to be destroying the blades or collecting. I think that's going to be like the trade-off. He either gets his hands on the blades in order to keep them safe, or he destroys them to prevent them from doing any more damage. Stuff like that. That's what I believe is going to happen. We already lost one of the sacred enchanted blade wielders because obviously Sojo had Cloud Gouger. And then this guy, I think we're gonna get safe, but I think there's three or four others after him, and it can really go either way. Hell, maybe one of the enchanted blade wielders just sides with the other group, so they don't even have to kill him. They just have to get him his sword, you know. But that might not be likely because they fought a war to keep the peace. So that's a little up in the air. But that'll be it for Kagurabachi. I'm really excited for next chapter, chapter 50, which is actually a pretty big milestone. 50. I think when we get to 52, we'll get to when did this start? I have to remember when the series started. But if we get to a year of serialization, that's great because people did not have faith in Kagurabachi, and now it's at 49, almost 50 chapters, and it doesn't look like it's going to force itself to end. But of course, that can always happen at any point. You never know. But let's hope and pray that it doesn't. So those were chapters 48 and 49 of Kagurabachi. Now we can move on to Kaiju number 8. Now, Kaiju number 8 is in like a weird spot right now where I think it's trying to end without ending. It's chapter 114. And this chapter, like, it feels like we should be ending already, but it was kind of like a last minute, like, not add-on. Like, this is obviously planned because we know, like, the stuff inside of number 9's body, the weird absorption thing that was happening with Maki. But this chapter, it gets me hype. I'm very excited for it, but I'm also kind of, I feel like this is dragging on a little bit too long. But like at this point, 9 is the final villain. He's the big boss. So they have to deal with him. And this is kind of like the realization that 9 was more than what we thought he was, which is saying a lot because 9 was crazy, right? And we have the other, what are they, Yonju? I forgot, but they all stopped, and these were the ones that were around the city, which prevented everybody else from coming and helping. But we have here that Kafka's core was damaged, like he hit straight into his core, which is not good, especially since he's in berserk mode, so he's not really thinking straight anyway. But the kaiju coming out of 9 is, they're saying, a completely different kaiju, which is scary. And we get this shot, which is terrifying. And then this, I don't know what type of power this is, but it's like a cutting ability. It just cut him straight. It cut straight through his arm. And this is a crazy damage, right? Like, look at this. And then he does it again right into his core, but his core was already damaged. We see the puncture wound, and he cuts into that. So like, Kafka is, his vitals are undetectable. The Kafka's dying, right? He's not gonna be okay after this. And Mia, is it Mia or Maki? I think I'm confusing names, but she's like, I need weapons, I need ammo, go. We're gonna beat this thing. But then we get this, which I think is like a really cool like design up from number 9, especially number 9 with number 2 combined. This is like the monsters inside of his body, like just puppeting his corpse, basically. That's how I see it. And we get this line, no one ever escaped. No matter the era, no matter how strong, not a single person in history. And we get this cutting line that we know is a giant slice on top of her face. So how will she get out of this? I don't know. And we could see here that it's almost like it's telepathic, because it's like, obviously it must be telepathic, but this is like, I don't know how she gets away from this, because is it like an actual slash? Does it travel, or is it kind of like the seals that he puts on make the cut? Like, is this like a like a target mark, or is this the origin of the attack? I think that's very important to see if she survives this. She probably will, but I think obviously according to this thing, it seems like we might go back in time again to see just a little bit more of how he ate all those things. Because if we go back a little bit further to this amalgam, obviously this all went into him, but we don't know how. We don't even know if he just absorbed this or if he got absorbed by this and they took its shape. But he seems to be his own entity, you know? So it's a little confusing. It's a little weird. We need. I think next chapter is going to do another like thing that happened here, where it starts off in the past and then it's going to go back into the present. That's what I think is going to happen. But for now, I don't know who can help. We might get the axe guy. I don't know his name. No, he's still fighting. They're all fighting in other places. So yes, they all stopped, but they don't really have time to just like rush in. I think this has to be. So I think next chapter we're gonna get a flashback or like an internal monologue. We either gonna get a flashback to number nine's past and how he absorbed that giant amalgam, or we're gonna get an internal view of Kafka, and seeing what's happening with him, because his core got destroyed or at least extremely damaged. He got his arm cut off, and his vitals are gone. So it's not looking good for him, truthfully. And I don't know how likely he is to make it out of this. We have to get a flashback to that Oni or that samurai with his face. You know, we have to get that, and we have to know what that weird bug thing is. We have to understand what these things are, because if we don't, we don't have any form of like rooting, you know. So I really don't know how Kafka's gonna get away with this. We need that past, because we, again, I'm gonna keep repeating myself. We don't know what that thing, what the bug is. We don't know why it hates kaiju, and we don't know what that weird samurai guy is. So I think if we get those, and it might be this next one, you know, this next flashback. Let's hope that we find out. We don't have to find out all of it. We can find out some of it at least, in order to, you know, get a little bit more history. But that's the end of Kaiju number 8. That's chapter 114. We can now move on to Jujutsu Kaisen, which is a bag of worms in itself. So this entire chapter is what I call the explaining to the audience why this was the only way this could happen. You know what I mean? It's like, oh well, why did this happen? Why did we go this way? And why couldn't we do this? Why couldn't we do that? This is basically telling the audience to shut up. Not that mean, but it's basically saying like, no, this is the only way that it could have happened. Otherwise, everything would have gone to garbage. You know, like there's a whole lot of talking. I'm not really gonna go too much into detail with all this, but we get explanation, we get reasoning, and we get a little bit more on like the shadow style stuff. But we get excuses for everybody. Is like, oh, I would have taken on Sukuna after I finished off Urume. Urume was tough, you know. Nobara was like, I woke up like 30 minutes before all this happened, so you know I couldn't really do anything. But this is just a bunch of exposition, yeah, and a lot of like concepts that we didn't know about yet, that were just introduced and then explained. Like this person was the head of the shadow school, like the new shadow style, and they were siphoning stuff. It's a bunch of like jargon. This chapter, like, this isn't my favorite type of chapter, where it's explaining a lot, and again, you could like, who could have thought of this? Like, this isn't like something that somebody could have thought of or like predicted. This is like a bunch. It's not coming out of nowhere, granted, but it's a lot of like, it's a lot of information to just dump on somebody. Like most of this entire chapter is basically just talking. You know, like if this chapter was animated, it'd be like 5 minutes. That's not bad. That's just saying like there is stuff here, but it's not a lot. You know, and what we have One, two chapters left. What? I think it's two. Then we have two chapters left. Because whatever. We only have two chapters left, and again, I'm left. I have no idea what we're gonna talk about next. Because I thought we're gonna have like a whole like suspenseful situation with Yuta, like, oh, they need to get him out of his body, or surprise, Yuta's in his body and we can like talk about stuff. But this, I don't know. But I feel like it's kind of like nice because instead of all the worry and suspense, it's just more lighthearted stuff. Because this chapter is it's pretty goofy if you start reading the stuff. Because Maki's just grilling. Let's go back. Maki is basically just grilling Yuta for being reckless and doing. Oh yeah, lawyer guy's alive. I kind of knew because he didn't look like he got too bad of like a hit, but you know most people didn't expect it. I had a feeling he'd still be alive, but whatever. But again, this is just mostly Maki ragging on Yuta for being bad. I guess he's doing like risky things, but you know they're fighting. They were fighting Sukuna. There's blah blah blah. But like I was saying again, I truly have no idea what the next chapter is going to be. Is it gonna be like Yuji? There has to be something with the next finger. There has to be something with the Sukuna stuff. Maybe Sukuna just pops up on his face and starts ragging on somebody, and he has to like slap him down or something. I don't know. Something has to like it. It feels like a falling action that's plummeting instead of gradually like going down. You know, but what can we really do? That's my brain. What can we really do? We get introduced to the Shadowhead thing. They're dead. We know that the other guy, I forgot what his name is, the Shadow guy, the Shadow Technique guy who does the simple domains really well. He's the new head. He does like weird rules with, I don't know her name. I know Wee Wee. It's not Wee Wee. Yu. Whatever. Her little brother is going to be the next head. They're going to do like pay to win options basically, but I don't know. I really don't know. So that was. I sound kind of negative, but it's like there's too much to talk about here. If that makes sense, it's like you could go into detail on what they're saying and what like it really means, but well, but the truth is, this is a chapter explaining why everything happened the way it did, and then like what is going to be the direct future afterwards. Like basically why this happened and then the consequences of it happening. You know, that's what the chapter was. But that for me is pretty much it. But moving from a chapter where I personally this isn't my favorite chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, it's not really my favorite thing. From my least favorite chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen to one of my favorite chapters of Chainsaw Man, which is Chainsaw Man chapter 177, which is apparently called Trigger Finger. I did not know that. So this is like the chapter. This is like the next step that happens because obviously we saw from the previous chapter she shot at Chainsaw Man and made him throw up mouths, and he's taking these hits but not well, and she has her arms and stuff, and the Tank Devil and the Gun Devil were both created out of war, which basically made them her children, right? Made them Yor's children. Asa is like, you know, this isn't like you have your devils. Why are you trying to kill Black Chainsaw Man? You know, what's the point at this point? Why is it? We kind of got that last time, but we're getting a little bit more now. And she was like, so you just sacrifice your children? And she says, children are parents' property, aren't they? You know, stuff like that. Also, just wanted to make this a point because I feel like Fujimoto it's Fujimoto. Oh, my brain isn't working right. Yeah, it has to be Fujimoto. The I feel like a lot of people have been like, oh, Fujimoto can't draw women like built like that, and right now we get a pretty decent. Which I saw like a video by Chibi Doki. No, Chibi reviews. Chibi Doki. Sorry, Chibi reviews, and he made a point which I 100% agree with. We've seen Yoru and Asa from similar angles like this, and she was not this stacked Truthfully, she was not. So Fujimoto must have been like, they're ragging on me. They're lying on my name. So give you a shot like this, and even this previous shot right here, just to put it in view, just so you know, you know. But yeah, but your is basically trying to egg on Chainsaw Man, trying to get him to like fight, and she goes right here. Oh, did the pain remind you? Like, do you know who I am? You seem pretty mad. Fight me, you know? Like, let's go. And then he dips. He just straight up dips, and we get this really funny scene of him like trying to petition for blood. He's like, he's shaking his hand. He's like, oh, you know, like he's just like making noises. Where he's like, you know, I need blood. Give me blood. And then we get this pretty weird scene where we're getting from views all over the world, and people are losing their trigger fingers or their index fingers. So let's see this. Approximately 400,000 of the National Association, of the National Pistol Association of America's 30.5 million members lose their index fingers, both. And we got this side-by-side shot of Yor and the Statue of Liberty. She pulls the trigger, and something in the face starts cracking. Now, this is like, for a lot of people like me, this was really weird. It's like, why Statue of Liberty? Why this? What's going on? I watched a Chibi Reviews video, and he talked about how with something as vague as war, and we know that things born from war are kind of the results of them, kind of like guns and bombs and tanks. Oh, I kind of spoiled my own sayings. Like guns and tanks and stuff like that. These are the results of war. So what else would be a result of war? Chibi brought up the point of saying like freedom. Freedom is technically birthed from war because you fight for freedom. And how do you fight? You fight with war. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, truthfully. But he also made the point of like, well, when you do something to do a ceasefire, would that be a symbol of war? Would that be an outcome of war? Would that be like the cause? You know, liberty, you fight for liberty, you fight for freedom. He brought up these points. Again, I think you should watch that video because he says it a lot better than I can. But he, like, those points make sense. Like, what authority does she have with the concept of war? War is such like a vague thing. I mean, obviously, we know it takes up stuff like guns and tanks. But what my question was, does it stop there with just guns and tanks? Because if we go back a few hundred years, the main form of war was swords, arrows, axes. Are those like results of war? Does that count? Does metal itself count as a product of war because we used it to create weapons? And one point that I brought up that I don't think Chibi talked about is she obviously has authority to call her children, call Tank, call the Gun Devil, and bring them to her. But my question is, again, could she do those with the hybrids? Because the hybrids are all weapons, you know? We have spear, we have arrow, we have flamethrower, which is 100% a weapon of war. You know, that's not, you don't make a flamethrower just to burn, you make a flamethrower for war, and then you try to find a way to use it normally. So could she just like control the hybrids or absorb them into herself? And could she possibly absorb the bomb devil or the bomb hybrid? Because one character that's been missing a lot is the bomb hybrid. I can't remember her name. It's out of my head. I can't remember. But I brought up the point that what if this is kind of how we get her in the story? You know what I mean? Like, this is like such a weird point. What if she's just in the Statue of Liberty, not as like a no, that's too dumb of a thing. Because my thought was, wasn't she like a Russian spy sent in to do something? So what if she was on a mission to do the Statue of Liberty? But that doesn't make sense. So in hindsight, because we know there are chunks of the Gun Devil everywhere. You know, we know that there's chunks everywhere. And because the Gun Devil was once really big, and the biggest chunk was taken to make her arm. What if her sacrificing the fingers of the National Pistol Association of America is kind of creating a new Gun Devil? You know what I mean? Or at least bringing the rest of the Gun Devil around, and maybe some of it's inside the Statue of Liberty. You know, I I don't know. I think this is gonna. I don't think this is gonna be like something crazy. I think they were gonna either get a demon popping out of this, or like a giant shot out to hit the Chainsaw Man wherever he is. Because this kind of seems like a signal fire to call something. You know, because she obviously was doing the bang to like hit Chainsaw Man, but this could be like a flare, kind of like the Statue of Liberty has, which is like a giant signal fire basically to call something. Oops, sorry, I hit the mic. To call something. I don't know what, but again, my theory where she could probably control some of the hybrids at least is somewhat valid because I think the two prime examples would be the flamethrower and the bomb devil. You know, those two hybrids. We don't know how hybrids would work in this situation if she can just like take control over them, but or if she would even want to. But that's like the weirdness of this. The complexity of how do you deal, like just what can she do? Especially now since people are fearing war even more because of what's happening, because of what Fami has been doing. Right now, Yoru is, they said like about as strong as she once was, you know? So her having all that strength and then, you know, getting arm and tank back on her body, basically returning them to their mother, is like a really freaky concept. Also, somebody else brought up a point. This is the first black person in Chainsaw Man, so you know that's pretty funny. I also think it's funny that it's the American branch that got their fingers cut off. Again, pretty funny, but so yeah, this I'm very excited to see what happens next chapter because we don't. Again, I'm always gonna keep saying this is gonna be my slogan. We don't know what he's cooking. We don't know why the Statue of Liberty is moving. It could be something inside. It could be. I think Chibi brought it up that the Statue of Liberty itself might move, but who knows? I think there's going to be like a giant attack coming out and hitting Chainsaw Man wherever he is. But also, I went out again. I'm talking about Chibi because that was like the only video I watched on the subject. They think it's really funny that he went to get a blood, say give blood, and this might be where power comes back because that was also set up in the previous series. In the previous part, where they were like, "Oh, come get like what power before she fully vanished was like, oh, find me whenever you like find the new blood devil or fiend, make them a friend, blah blah blah, stuff like that." So this might be a way to get that, which would be interesting. So, but that's also it for. Also, one more thing, we still see the factory right here. So we know that he's trying to keep it consistent at least this. I need to see. I'll do it off recording to see if I can find a shot very similar to this one. Skipping through this one just to make sure because I swear it wasn't like this. But who knows? Maybe he threw up the cake devil. Wait, how? No, I'm not going into that train of thought. But those were these chapters, and I'm still gonna do my manga recommendation. I'm gonna switch out of this view and switch into this one. I'm gonna do my manga recommendation, which is actually something you can read on Viz, which is let me remember the title. I think it's "You and I Are Polar Opposites." Yeah, I believe so. Let me see if I can find this. It's here. It's somewhere. I don't know. You and I Are Polar Opposites. It's very cute. If you like seeing like two like people like have a relationship, and it's a pretty realistic relationship and a bunch of like neat side characters, read You and I Are Polar Opposites. I don't know how many chapters is out now. I haven't fully caught up yet, but you know, read that. So it's because I'm looking at the main thing and I just see Comey, and I remember the most recent chapter. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna talk about it, but it's very funny. But sorry, getting sidetracked. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. You know, again, same thing I said in the beginning. Like, comment, share, subscribe. If you pop in for a second, if you watch for a second, if if you do anything with this channel or engage in any way, I very much appreciate it. Every view counts. And I really appreciate you guys if you do choose to stay around to hear me ramble about things I like. And if you want to recommend any manga or tell me how you feel about the recommendation that I gave you, put it in the comments. If you have any ideas that you have on the chapters I talked about today, put them in the comments. You know, have fun. And I'd like to bid you all a farewell.